Hello Leafs fans. Today, we have two big updates to share with you. First, we're talking about Sidney Crosby and the possibility of him donning the blue and white of the Toronto Maple Leafs, a rumor that has been circulating after the Penguins' struggles and the relationship between Crosby and Kyle Dubas. What would this mean for the Leafs? And should Toronto consider this trade, no matter how unlikely it may seem? Let's explore the pros and cons. Additionally, we have Nick Robertson's situation, a young talent who once promised so much, but is now facing difficulties in staying with the team. Is it time for the Leafs to move on without him? Let's analyze Robertson's performance and how he fits into the team's current system. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the Boys in Blue News channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an important update about the Toronto Maple Leafs. Your subscription is crucial to our Leafs fan community. Now let's dive into these two major topics and the future of the Leafs. Why is it time for the Maple Leafs to move on without Nick Robertson? Nick Robertson, once viewed as one of the most promising young talents for the Toronto Maple Leafs, seems to be facing a crucial point in his career. Despite his determination and technical skills, this season has been a constant struggle for him, raising the question: is there still space for Robertson on this roster? Robertson began the season with renewed hopes after signing a one-year extension worth $875,000 in September. The goal was clear. This would be his chance to prove he could be a regular and reliable player in the team's middle six. However, nearly 3 months later, the scenario is quite different. With just one goal in 19 games and a long dry spell of 12 games without scoring, it's hard to justify his place on a team that's looking for consistent offensive solutions. Underperformance. While Robertson has created some good opportunities, he has struggled to capitalize on them. His only goal so far came at the end of a game against the Columbus Blue Jackets when the outcome was almost already decided. In a team that relies on offensive production from all lines, this lack of impact becomes an even bigger problem, especially in a system that values immediate performance. The Leafs, who are already facing secondary scoring issues, had hoped Robertson could contribute more, especially with the injuries that have sidelined half of their regular forwards. However, he hasn't been able to seize these opportunities to solidify his spot on the team, adapting to the system. One of Robertson's biggest challenges has been adjusting to the playing style implemented by Craig Berube. The coach has prioritized a dump-and-chase system and strong forechecking, while Robertson excels in quick transitions and plays at speed. This disconnect has affected his confidence and decision-making, as was evident in a recent play against the Florida Panthers. Instead of passing to a wide-open William Nylander, Robertson chose to take a backhand shot that was easily saved. That said, there are positive aspects to his performance. He's improved defensively, leads the team in penalties drawn, and shows effort in puck battles, even with his smaller frame. His coach has praised these aspects, reinforcing the idea that he's trying to adjust. But at the end of the day, effort isn't enough when results aren't forthcoming. Competition is increasing. While Robertson struggles to solidify his spot, young players like Fraser Minten and Nikita Grabenkin have shown promise in their recent appearances. Even with less NHL experience, both have already made an impact in recent games. Moreover, players like Alex Nylander and Alex Steeves are also vying for space, putting even more pressure on Robertson. With the return of regulars, the situation becomes more complicated. Minten and Grabenkin can be sent back to the Marlies without risking their spot, but that's not the case for Nylander and Steeves. This means Robertson's margin for error is smaller than ever. Is it time to move on? Given the situation, it seems increasingly clear that both Robertson and the Maple Leafs would benefit from parting ways. His style doesn't fit well with the current system, and his offensive production doesn't justify the spot he occupies on the roster. A trade could offer him a fresh start, and at the same time, allow the Leafs to bring in someone who better fits the team's needs. What do you think? Should the Leafs stick with Robertson, or is it time to look for new options? Can he still prove his worth this season? Share your thoughts in the comments. This is a conversation every fan needs to have. Sidney Crosby on the Maple Leafs? Should Toronto consider this? The idea of Sidney Crosby wearing the blue and white of the Maple Leafs is undoubtedly fascinating. For fans, imagining one of the greatest players in history joining Toronto's core is almost like a daydream. But does this recent speculation, sparked by Brian Hayes from TSN, have any basis in reality? Let's explore the pros, the cons, and the actual chances of Crosby becoming a Leaf. Why does Crosby to the Leafs make sense? Crosby is synonymous with leadership, playoff excellence, and consistent performance. His arrival in Toronto would bring immediate benefits. Imagine a center trio made up of Austin Matthews, John Tavares, and Crosby. This could turn the Leafs into an even greater powerhouse, both on the ice and in the locker room. With 3 Stanley Cups on his resume, Crosby could bring exactly what the team lacks: experience and composure in clutch moments. His ability to elevate the game of those around him would be a gift to young prospects like Matthew Knies and Bobby McMann, in addition to offering a new level of dynamism to established stars like Mitch Marner and William Nylander. Additionally, Crosby's contract, which runs through 2026 to 27, aligns perfectly with the peak competitive window of the current Leafs roster. This would send a clear message that the franchise is all in on finally winning the Stanley Cup. The challenges of bringing Crosby to Toronto. Despite the potential benefits, there are many obstacles. Crosby's $8.7 million salary cap hit is a significant barrier for a team already struggling with the salary cap. To make room, Toronto would likely have to sacrifice important names, such as Nylander, which could destabilize the team's chemistry. Furthermore, the Penguins are not inclined to trade Crosby unless the team decides to go into full rebuild mode. Even in that scenario, Pittsburgh would demand a steep price, likely including prospects like Fraser Minton or Easton Cowan, along with several draft picks. This trade could weaken the Leafs' future base and create risks for the coming years. Another critical point is Crosby's loyalty to the team that drafted him and that he's led throughout his career. Kyle Dubas, now with the Penguins, has made it clear that he sees Crosby as the greatest player of his generation. Unless Crosby expresses interest in leaving, it's hard to imagine Pittsburgh facilitating his departure. Finally, there's the question of internal impact. How would Tavares react to a position change or reduced minutes? And Crosby, who has always been the center of attention, would he be willing to share the spotlight with Matthews? Should Toronto consider it? Despite all the challenges, it would be irresponsible for the Leafs not to explore a possibility like this, no matter how unlikely it seems. Sidney Crosby is a player who can change the course of a franchise, and if he expresses any interest in seeking a new path, Toronto should be prepared to act. The question for fans is, would the price be worth it? Would it be better to risk the future to maximize the chances now? Or should Toronto keep its focus on the long term, trusting the current core to break through the playoff barrier? Now, we want to hear from you. Do you think Sidney Crosby would be the final piece the Leafs need to finally win the Stanley Cup? What should Toronto offer in a potential trade? Or would it be better to invest in the future with what we already have? Leave your thoughts in the comments. This discussion promises to be intense,